And we had so many records. And when I reached like a particular point in my life where I was super financially struggling, my boyfriend at that time helped me like take the record collection to, do you remember the name of the place in Silver Lake?
Oh, yeah, the one across from the Red Lion, right?
Across from the Red
That
Lion.
record shop. It's
Uh-huh.
funny. It was another one of those
Was it
places.
Coupons? No.
I don't
Was
remember.
it? No, I can't remember
I
the.
I will try to go back and research that and throw it up.
So he
If
took all
this
of
ends up
my
getting on
records
YouTube.
there to sell them, and then Beck walked in and actually took a whole bunch of my records. But
That's awesome.
yeah, I mean, it would have been awesome if I'd made any meaningful amount of money from the, like, I'm barely making it and can't even feed myself.
And
But, that's not how it played out.
well, and that's fascinating too, because part of the reason why we're talking about Jack White is his like respect and use of like older analog technology. And what was interesting, I think he was part of that resurgence when people like I remember like it was people around our age that started buying vinyl again because it was so cheap. You could go and
Sounds
you
so
can go
good.
in. It's first. Well, it sounds better, but you can go into one of the record shops like Amoeba or some of the other record shops.
Was it an Amoeba?
Amoeba was one. Red Devil Records was another. There was a little place on the Mission called Aquarius Records. I'm not sure it's still there. They sold vinyl, and they were one of the first. I remember when a lot of the resurgent garage rock bands, the punk bands, the metal bands started releasing 7 inches because it was actually not that expensive because no one was doing it anymore. That was back when CDs were coming and iTunes was just starting to become a thing.
When I was in high school, I literally had like friends in the hood.
Yeah.
We were like Northeast LA. In the hood, everyone was pressing 7 inches.
Yes.
I got 7 inches left and right, like
Right.
handed to me,
Yeah.
basically. So
I remember getting 7 inches too and buying them, even though I really didn't have a way to play them. I'd have my friend, one of my roommates, did have a good record player, and he was big into records. Like he had, like the milk cartons full of them, of reggae and soul and like old rock and like Journey and stuff. And
yeah.
we'd all listen to his records and really enjoy it. And then, yeah, I would start getting 7 inches and stuff like that of the local bands. But yeah, back to the White Stripes. I remember that. Yeah, I didn't get it, but then like I think it was I'm Waiting for Your Doorbell. That's the song that was like, oh, okay, this is different. Like it was more bluesy and soul, and I'm like, oh, okay, because I grew up on like soul music and Motown and the Beatles, and so I liked that sound a lot. Even while I was listening to metal, I would still go back and listen, you know, over and over again to Sergeant Pepper or Creedence Clearwater Revival. And I still liked some of the other local bands from San Francisco, Jefferson Airplane, uh,
Journey.
Big Brother and the Holding Company. Even though I didn't like what's her name as a person, I did like that band. Obviously, Sly and the Family Stone as well.
Well, and one of the reasons why I was, I don't know, organically attracted to first Jack White's music, but then the more that I read of like interviews with them, and they were fabulously elusive. He still stays pretty private.
Mm-hmm.
Which he totally gets to. I understand.
Right.
But was the fact that one of the things I had read was how interested he was in music, in part was a direct result of him wanting to preserve some of the older roots music that he was fearful was going to go away. And because he goes that extra mile to use the analog technologies that have unfortunately fallen out of favor. I love that. I am a huge enthusiast for the vintage beauty that surrounds us and is evaporating before our very eyes all the time. I grew up in a situation where we had lots of parts and components and pieces of things and different kinds of stuff that was either given to us or been traded with my dad for construction favors or whatever. Like we had so much crap, right? Like everywhere.
I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so one of the things that I think made the White Stripes unique is the scene they came out of, which was Detroit. And Detroit, Michigan, as everybody knows, has sort of been like a kind of a forgotten city, even though it has a huge history of like industry and with cars and music and culture. And, you know, in the Motown days, it was one of the places to be too. Um, and oddly enough, Jack White isn't into Motown, which I find fascinating. Maybe he liked it earlier in life. I did read, but this was an interview from 2003 that I read, so he may have since changed his mind. Um, but I do know that that informed his music, and before that, he was a drummer too. And that is, I believe he's the one that taught Meg how to play, right?
That's what I had read, that I've
Okay,
read in multiple places. Um, yeah,
right,
like he was kind of, I sort of see it as they were each other's like
right,
uh emotional support
right.
creatures.
Yeah,
Well, I could do this because you're with me and you make me feel like I could do this.
right. Which is fascinating considering it came out like they used to tour and say they were siblings, and it came out that they were spouses, and they divorced before they were even famous. And like Meg White,
2000.
yeah, insisted that the band stay together because it worked. And I think that's pretty cool. But also, they were part of a scene of like garage rock in Detroit, and they ended up being the biggest band. We watched a documentary that I that's on YouTube. If anybody's interested, maybe I'll put the link in the description. If this ends up on YouTube, called VPRO, the Detroit Music Scene. It's a Dutch documentary, but it's really interesting if you're a fan of the White Stripes because it shows the scene they came from, this weird garage scene of these different eclectic types that have been around the Detroit scene for a little while. And Jack White himself was in bands, and then I do believe that he had a plan with the White Stripes, right?
I think of what an absolute brilliant strategy it
Yes.
was for them to present themselves as brother and sister. And so, look, I remember way back when like that was being shilled to us, right? And I
Yeah.
was actually pretty pissed about. I'm like, what the fuck do you mean? Like, hold on, brother or sister or husband and
It's
wife.
like the
I'm
Osmonds.
deeply concerned. Are you Amish? Are you inbred?
Ro-
Are you some kind of royalty? Maybe you're in the Windsor family. I hear, you know.
Well, and, and to be fair, we have a lot of popular music has been this, the Carpenters, the Osmonds, like I said before, the Jonas Brothers, right? These family things. But what was brilliant, I think, about the White Stripes and Jack White's plan, because he had a plan, was that if you watch the documentary that we watched on the Detroit scene at the time, you could see why they were the ones breaking. Because, first of all, they were the most aesthetically pleasing.
Gorgeous.
They were pretty people.
Pretty people.
Meg White's beautiful. Jack White's like tall, handsome. He looks like a rocker, even though he's much different than a traditional rock and roll star. We'll get to that later. But they were very packaged at a time when I think that Jack White could read the tea leaves and see that the industry was going away from the rock band, right?
Oh, yeah, totally. I agree with you. And then the way that, so if you just have a two-piece band, and I was thinking about this last night. Um, I can never sleep anymore because what's happening to the world. But as I'm laying there trying to think of happy thoughts, maybe I could go back to sleep because I got things to do tomorrow. I was thinking about how absolutely brilliant it was that they had the two-person band, which almost no band ever does,
Right.
because we got to see the intimacy between them.
Mm-hmm.
And that is part of why it works and is amazing. Because we are seeing like those magic divinity, subatomic particles we can't actually see playing out musically,
Right.
acoustically with them. on stage. Well, they also had the brilliance of like actually bothering to market themselves. Like my red and white striped, I might look more orangey, but it's red and white striped dress, and I actually wore this to a White Stripes concert many years ago. I have since had my child put crayons on it, so there's
Right.
spots all over it. It's been retired too. This is for beachwear now.
Right. Well, and as far as with the White Stripes, and they are kind of representative of how the music business began to change, like I said, change. And I believe that Jack White saw that kind of coming.
Yeah.
And if you like, and the 90s, there were plenty of like, Blink-182, Korn, there were a lot of bands, but then like the White Stripes, and here's where I'm going to kind of veer into the metal territory, Slipknot also wears red and white. It's 9 guys. But the truth is, the band is really only 2 people that run the band, the singer and one of the percussionists, and they run everything, right? And Jack White and the White Stripes with Meg, they're only 2. They're red and white. It's very aesthetically pleasing, but it's also, for the record companies, it's easier to control 1 or 2 people. And that's when we slowly started, popular music went away from the rock bands and started to focus more on the singer-songwriter, the pop star. Hip-hop was starting to get really big and make the money. And that's, I think Jack White kind of smelled that coming. And he's like, okay, I'm going to package something that we can market. And as I even during the documentary, they are surprised they're getting so big. And
which is fascinating.
Which is fascinating to me. And I don't know if they really predicted how big they were going to get, because the White Stripes turned into probably the biggest rock and roll band in the U.S., maybe in the world, right? At their peak. What do you think?
God. I hear Seven Nation Army constantly.
Everywhere.
Still.
Right?
And it's like 22 years later.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I'm like wrong with the dates. But you can fix it.
15, 16 years.
But it's a long time. And one of the only times that we can go to our kids' school and hear the morning music and not want to, grab them and race them away someplace else because it's some kind of horrid pop is when they're playing something like Seven Nation Army.
Probably wrap it up.
Thank you so much for coming to hang out with us on the nerdy side with Honey and Spanky.
Yeah.
And we are just so happy to be able to get nerdy with you and hope that you will please feel inspired to like, share, comment, subscribe, and maybe even buy us a coffee.
Yeah, we're having a great time doing this, and we appreciate everybody listening to it and everybody who's watched it, our video clips on YouTube. We'd like to keep doing it, and we'd appreciate any support you can give us, like subscriptions to our YouTube page. Follow us on Buy Me a Coffee if you feel like you can. Throw us a couple bucks. We understand that times aren't great economically, but any support we can get would be great from you. And thank you again for listening and watching us.
Thank you so much. We can't wait to visit again.
Yeah.